Sanmanan. Coed versus single sex schools. So, my little one, the last one, got to join his brother's school, Izol. So all three of them are in the same school, and which is super super duper cool. Um, but the little one, his school is a co-ed space, meaning there's boys and girls together, and the two older ones are in boys' spaces. And this is a discussion and a debate that I have had with thousands and thousands of people, be it my friends, be it colleagues, be it teachers, be it pupils that I've taught. So I've been, or I was rather, in the educational space for, started coaching rugby post matric. So when I was in my first year, 2007, and I left education in 2020. So Mina, I've taught every single grade from grade R up until matric. I've taught every single grade. I have taught in co-ed spaces. I've taught in single sex spaces. I've taught elokshini. I've taught in the most expensive private schools in this country. So my experience is very different than most, because a lot of teachers that I know, that I speak to, it's either a teacher just taught in an X model C type of setting, or a teacher who's taught in a private school type of setting, or in a single sex type of setting. So it's very limited. And when I have these debates or discussions with some of my friends, many of them went to boys schools. Many of them went to X model C type of boys schools. So again, they're just speaking from their own personal walk. And for me, I believe mine might be a bit rounded. So, disclaimer, I'm biased towards co-ed spaces. I went to a co-ed space. So, I went to a co-ed space from a creche until I finished matric. And then went to a co-ed university and then worked in co-ed spaces. So, that is just me. I was very, very privileged, and I got a chance to go to these X Model C type of schools. So, mina azang funde lokshin. And most of my talk today will be around X Model C and private school IEB spaces. So just please bear with me. You've got a different experience. Please let me know in the comments below. Okay, so parents, you watching this right now, you've got a son, a daughter, and you're saying, I don't know where to send my child. How do you go about this? So first and foremost, let's look at your pockets. Let's be honest. Let's be fully honest. So can you afford an IEP space? If you want to send your son to a school like, let's say, Hilton, you might find yourself paying 40,000 Rand a month for tuition and boarding. Are you able to pay 40,000 Rand a month? If yes, then let's start having this conversation. Are you able to get your child in a certain school? So certain schools, it's a lot harder to get in versus others. So if your child is very talented in a sports code, for example, there are certain schools that is more tailored to him. So the first thing that I'd look at is finance. You do not want to put all that financial strain on your family, all because you're trying to say, oh my God, I want the best for my kids. They will feel at a later stage like guilty. Yeah, but guilty. Because they'll always have that feeling of, yo, umama, ubaba is eating noodles 24/7 for me. Umama, ubaba is breaking their back for me. Whereas if you are doing something within your financial lane, for them it's a lot less stressful. So let's look at that and let's be cognizant of that. And then a very, very, very important pillar is the type of child you have. What child do I have? Do I have a very sporty child? Is my child more into the academics? Is my child a well-rounded child? What type of child do I have? Do I have a boy who likes to disappear into himself, or do I have a boy who's more a boy who's more extroverted? All these things will guide you in the type of setting that you want to put your child in. Another pillar is your family's values. You know, so you as a family, are you guys incredibly religious? Are you guys very conservative? You know, because there's many schools that are very, very liberal in how they do things. There's many schools that are very pro the LGBTQ plus community. And if you in your home feel like that is, they should separate those discussions in terms of sexuality versus academics, then that should play a huge part of it. If you as a home are very religious, then you must understand that some schools tend to be more neutral towards religion. You know, so not necessarily go to they atheist, but they're neutral, so everyone can come in and kumbaya together. So again, finance, the type of child you have, your family values. Again, academics is important. The reason I paused is because academics is important, but it's hard to pick out a good school academically, and I'll tell you why. The academic results we see once a year based on matrics, you know. So something like sports is easy because sports you see it every weekend. You see it every single weekend from under 14 to under 11 to under 17C. You know, you see sports every day. Okay, they lose to the school, they win to the school, they lose. You can kind of gauge where they are. Academics, I don't know how this school's geography department is, or I don't know how this school's maths department is. You know, I can make assumptions based on the number of matric A's that school gets, but there's so many variables in that play into that. So the academic one is sensitive. A lot of the schools that we deem are good schools are schools that are based on sports results. So generally, when we talk about Model C schools, we're talking about schools that we know for sports. We know schools like Glenwood for sports, Marisburg College for sports, Northwood, we know Coed, we know Jeppe, we know Selborne. Again, I'm mentioning boys' schools, but we know them for sports. They not known necessarily for academics, bar a school like Westville Boys. But again, it's hard to kind of figure that out. So we'll know the schools based on the popularity based on sports. Outside of that, we know schools based on exclusivity from a financial point. So that would be a St. Stephen's, a St. John's, a Hilton, a Kersney, a Bishop's. Those again are boys' schools. Girls, it would be a Rodin, St. Mary's, Brescia. All these schools from a financial point are very 1% targeted. But we don't really know, oh, these schools are academic schools. And people don't normally Google that. And again, it's iffy because now you've got an IB system, you've got a Cambridge system, you've got the government school systems, and it's hard to compare because it's not apples versus apples. So the academic one is tricky. How I would go about that academic pillar is actually do open days at school. See what the school actually is trying to sell you. Speak to the kids that go to the school. Hear their approach and their enthusiasm towards academics. Speak to parents of certain schools that you're looking as potentials, and that will guide you. You know, yes, the matric result at the end of the year is good, you know, but that shouldn't be the only yardstick that you are using, or rather, it shouldn't be the only factor when it looks at the overall academic performance. And then another one will be the sports and the culture. So, just to recap, you've got the finances. How do I pick a good school? Finances, you as a family, what are our finances? You look at your child. What is my child? Is my child academic, sporty, overall? Look at your family values. Does the school align with our family values? And then we look at the academic program. We look at the co-curricular program being sports being culture, being service, etc., etc., etc. So we've had so many of these debates. Here's my take. I want to put my kids in a space that is conducive, or let me put it like this, that will prepare them best for the world out there. Again, I've taught at many boys' schools. However, I don't believe that the average boy at a boys' school and I'm talking about, let's say, a good boys' school, versus the average boy at a co-ed space, average versus average, apples versus apples. When it comes to the opposite sex, understands them the same. Ish, shy. Meaning, the boy at the boys' school, the average boy at a boys' school, I don't believe understands girls on the same level as a boy who went to a co-ed space. I went to a co-ed space. We had a lady, well, back then she was a little girl, by the name of Bhavna Maharaj. Bhavna Maharaj was first in our grade since grade 4. Bhavna Maharaj didn't give a fuck whether you were black, white, green, blue, male, female. She was just dominating, you know. So I learned from a young age. No teacher had to teach me. No parent had to tell me. They didn't have to have this woke thing. I knew that there were girls that were just academically stronger than me. I knew that. I didn't have to hear about it, and I didn't have to read it in a textbook. I don't know if the average grade 4 boy in a boys' school is exposed to that. For them, they might see girls different. Yes, they might have inter-campus days where they get to mingle. We saw it every day. Spelling test, Bhavna shy. Quiz, Bhavna shy. Bhavna just took no prisoners. And it taught us. And it wasn't just Bhavna. There was a Nikasha, there was a this. They were just dominating. You know, there were Indian girls that were strong academically. There was black girls that were strong academically. There was Afrikaans girls. They dominated the Asian girls. So again, in that space, we knew from an academic point, you can be boy, girl, doesn't matter. It's all about what you put in. From a sports point, I played under 13B cricket. The reason why I played under 13B is because we didn't have a C. If we had a D, I would have been in it. And we had a girl who, her name was Heidi. I wouldn't bet against Heidi when she was bowling. That ball used to come. I'd be like, nah, I'll wait for Josh to bowl. I'll wait for Amanda to bowl. But I'm not going to face Heidi. I knew at age 13 that Heidi is a better cricketer than me. I wasn't told, yo, there's girls that are also better than you. No one had to teach me this. Being in a space like that, I knew it. You know, so this whole thing of patriarch, I don't know where it comes from. You know, we grew up in a very matriarch space, and we grew up in co-ed spaces. So we grew up seeing female deputy headmistresses, female headmistresses, female this, female that. So for us, it was a duck scholar in grade 7 was Bhavna Maharaj. So that's what we knew. Guti, females, like males, if you put in the work, you get the results. Get to high school, puberty hits, we get a little bit taller. So from a sports point, we then tend to be more dominating against the girls. But when I play hockey, did we play boys versus girls? The girls were fucking aggressive. They worked, hey. You would feel it. And you're thinking, Wuti, I don't know if boys in boys schools get to feel that. You know, the chess team wasn't, there's the boys chess team, there's the girls chess team. It was a chess team, you know. And you would lose. Boy, girl, you would lose to the person who was better. There was a lady when I was in grade 10. She was in matric. I'm not going to say her name. She was a big girl. I was shit scared of her. You know, she used to call me Pencel. Hey, Pencela. You know, and I'd be like, yeah. Because I knew Uguti, like, I shy him. Like, she didn't mess around. Like, so for us, we knew Uguti, there's ladies in the space that can fuck us up. And there's guys in the space that can fuck us up. It wasn't a matter of, yes, the law of averages, there's more males who are than females, got you. But we'd always understand certain variables about the world out there. We had girls when I was in school that were dating guys that worked, varsity guys that push on my takes when we were in school. So when I got to varsity or the world out there, you know, I wasn't shocked when you see varsity girls dating guys at work, guys whereas some guys who went to these type of schools, that was kind of new to them. There's so many things that were, yes, guys, fuck sex. I know there's so many guys that go to boys' schools that have sisters, that interact with females that are day kids and go back and interact with, but I'm just using the norm of your child. You send him to a Michael House, they are a single child, only boy, and he's only seeing other boys from beginning of term to end of term. And he comes back home as a single child, and there's no sisters, there's no girls around him. It becomes a lot trickier versus us who are in those spaces. So that's where I become incredibly biased. We learned heartbreak, escale. That we learned girls cheat on you as well. We learned that escale. We learned that a girl will leave you for a better guy. We learned that escale. And then we learned so many other positive things. We learned Uguti, there was girls that actually love a man through and through, regardless of whatever. We learned that at school. We learned that there's girls who are willing to begazela and be ride or die. We learned that at school. We didn't have to experience that in varsity. We didn't have to experience that post-varsity. Whereas I don't know if that is a norm. I know that there are a selected few guys who are top of the food chain at boys' schools that get to date. It's normally the top coolest girls versus the top coolest boys. At school, even the loser boy gets to date the loser girl. The average guy gets to date the average girl. It's nothing special. It's like, all right, you're a loser, I'm a loser, let's be losers together. I don't know if being in a boys' school gives you that opportunity as a loser to travel to the opposite girls' school and find a loser as well. I don't know. As a teacher, I never saw those spaces. So I saw there's a bit of a breakdown of something here. I know Wuti, I again am seeming pro-Coed for that, and I'm just talking about relationships. Well, not just because I spoke about academics, but give me it's what best prepares you. What best prepares you. A lot of the boys' schools are extremely privileged from a financial point. A lot of them are that top 10%. If you look at boys' schools, especially English co-ed schools, or girls' schools, normally within that area, they tend to be the most expensive. And I'm not even talking about the IB spaces. So it's something for you to think about. So people will say, but they become more successful. And you're like, well, if I come from a financially strong family who can plug me and network me into spaces, maybe my mom or my dad has a business that can get plugged in, then the chance of me becoming successful is a lot higher whether I go to a boys' school or a girls' school. So there's so many variables that you need to look at. One of the things that I want to do, I want to actually go back and start doing videos and start doing interviews where I start speaking to young boys, high school boys at different schools, high school girls. I start speaking to teachers. I start speaking to ex-scholars just around their school experience. Speak to people who are in IB spaces, government spaces, speak to sports guys, sports heroes at their school, speak to people who might be less known within spaces, so that whoever's on the other side, even if you're a student, you also get to look in and see oh snap, I didn't know that life at that school was actually like this. I didn't know that they experience these things like how I experience this. Oh, that's a bit sucky. There's privileges at my school that their schools don't have. All those type of things so that we can better understand. So this is like basically a part 1 of 100. I know I just spoke. But again, guys, I'm passionate about education. I love education. I love all the teachers who are putting in the yards. You guys are a blessing. If you're at school, stay in school and be cool. But anyway, guys, ngithanda nonke. Siyabonga. Nibe great.